You know, it's a beautiful thing. Growing older, you gain perspective, wisdom, a richer understanding of life. But let's be honest, aging also brings changes. Some are physical, some are emotional, and some are, well, they're little habits or behaviors that can creep in without us even noticing. And sometimes, these habits are things that the people around us, our loved ones, our friends, they notice, but they find it really hard to bring up. It's like there's this silent understanding that some things are just too awkward or too sensitive to talk about, especially when it comes to older folks. It's not that anyone is trying to be mean or critical. It's just that certain things can become, well, let's just say, less appealing or more challenging to be around. This can create a painful reality where connections can subtly weaken and loneliness can start to set in, not because people don't care, but because they might feel uncomfortable or unsure how to navigate these unspoken issues. It's a tough spot to be in for everyone involved. But what if we could shine a light on these areas, not to judge, but to understand and offer a path forward? What if we could address these sometimes awkward truths head on, with kindness and practicality? That's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to look at 5 common challenges that can sometimes manifest in older age, things that others might notice but feel awkward mentioning. We're going to call them ugly things, just like the title suggests. But please understand, we're using that term to grab attention for topics that are often hidden away. In reality, these are simply human tendencies or difficulties that can become more prominent as we age. And they are absolutely fixable. We'll explore why they happen. And most importantly, we'll look at simple, practical, and empowering ways to address them. This isn't about conforming to anyone else's expectations. It's about living your most vibrant, connected, and confident life. Regardless of your age, it's about understanding yourself and having the tools to navigate these changes gracefully. So, stick with me until the very end, because there's something I'll share that might truly surprise you and change how you think about these challenges. Let's start with the first challenge, one that can sometimes feel really sensitive to discuss, and that's related to our personal presentation. Now, I'm not talking about needing to be runway ready every day. Absolutely not. What I'm talking about are things like neglecting basic grooming, maybe wearing stained clothing regularly, or having a strong, persistent odor, whether it's from stale laundry, body odor, or even too much strong perfume or cologne used to mask other smells. This isn't always about being lazy or not caring. Sometimes, it's a direct result of the aging process itself. Think about it. Physical difficulties can make things like bathing, doing laundry, or even reaching to brush your hair properly much harder than they used to be. Arthritis can make buttoning shirts or tying shoelaces a real struggle. Our sense of smell can diminish as we get older, meaning we might not notice odors on ourselves or our clothing that are quite apparent to others. Vision changes can make it harder to spot stains or see if clothes are a bit disheveled. Sometimes, it's also tied to loneliness or a lack of motivation. When you don't see many people, or you feel like nobody really notices you anyway, it's easy to let these things slide. Depression, which can be more common in older adults, can also sap the energy and will to maintain personal care. But here's why this is important, and why others notice our appearance and how we smell communicate things to the world. Whether we intend them to or not, when these things are neglected, it can create a barrier. People might unknowingly keep a physical distance. They might hesitate to hug you, or they might avoid inviting you to social events, not because they don't like you, but because the sensory experience is uncomfortable for them. This can be incredibly isolating for the older person, reinforcing any feelings of loneliness or worthlessness they might already have. It's a vicious cycle. The fix for this starts with self-awareness and self-compassion, acknowledging that this can be a challenge for older adults, and that it's not a moral failing, is the first step. Then, it's about implementing practical strategies that make self-care easier. For example, choosing clothing that is simple to put on and take off. Think elastic waistbands, Velcro closures, tops with wide necklines. Buying clothes that are easy to wash and don't show stains easily can also be helpful. Doing smaller, more frequent loads of laundry instead of waiting for a huge, overwhelming pile. Making bathing or showering easier and safer is crucial. Installing grab bars, using a shower chair, and having long-handled brushes can make a huge difference. If getting into a tub or shower is truly difficult, sometimes a basin bath with warm, soapy water and a washcloth is a perfectly acceptable option. Focusing on key areas daily. Keeping basic grooming supplies easily accessible is also key. Maybe set up a little station with a comb or brush, toothbrush and toothpaste, and a gentle soap or body wash where you spend time in the morning. Setting a simple daily routine, even if it's just washing your face, brushing your teeth, and changing into fresh clothes, can make a big difference for the smell issue. Using a gentle, unscented antiperspirant or deodorant daily is important. Be mindful of perfumes and colognes. A little goes a long way. And sometimes a strong scent can be just as off-putting as a bad one. The best approach is often regular washing and clean clothes. If you suspect your sense of smell isn't what it used to be, you could gently ask a trusted family member or friend to give you an honest, kind opinion. Perhaps framing it around checking if your laundry detergent is working well. Or simply make it a rule to change clothes daily and ensure laundry is done frequently. Automating services like having laundry picked up or delivered can also be a lifeline for some. Remember, this isn't about vanity. It's about comfort, dignity, and removing potential barriers to social connection. Feeling clean and presentable just makes you feel better about yourself too. And that confidence shines through. It's a fundamental part of maintaining well-being. Moving on to another challenge. And this one is more about how we interact with the world through our words becoming overly negative, critical, or fixated on complaining. Now, I want to be very clear. Everyone has bad days, and it's completely natural to complain occasionally, especially when you're dealing with chronic pain, loss, or frustration. Aging often comes with more than its fair share of these difficulties. However, for some people, complaining can become the default mode of communication. Every conversation might eventually circle back to their ailments, the state of the world, how things used to be better, or grievances from the past. They might be quick to criticize others, find fault in every situation, or constantly predict doom and gloom. This isn't necessarily a conscious choice. It can be a coping mechanism, a way to express frustration, or sometimes it's just a habit that's developed over many years. Pain, both physical and emotional, can make anyone more irritable and prone to negativity. Loneliness can make people desperate for attention. And sometimes, negative talk is the only way they feel they can get a reaction. Lack of purpose or stimulating activity can lead the mind to dwell on problems. The ugly part here is that this constant negativity can be incredibly draining for the people around you. Friends and family might start to dread phone calls or visits because they know they're going to be subjected to a barrage of complaints or criticism. They might start to pull away, not because they don't care, but because it's emotionally exhausting. And again, this creates a painful cycle where the older person might feel even more abandoned or unheard, leading to more negativity. Breaking this cycle requires a conscious effort to shift perspective and habits. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about finding a healthier way to process difficulties and interact with others. One practical step is simply becoming aware of how often you're complaining or focusing on the negative. You could try keeping a mental tally, or even jotting down the main topics of your conversations for a day or two. This awareness alone can be very revealing. Once you're aware, you can start to make small changes. For every complaint you feel like voicing, try to find one thing you're grateful for or one positive observation about the situation or person. It takes practice, like building a muscle. If you're talking about an ache or pain, acknowledge it briefly, but then try to pivot to something else. Maybe something you can still do, or a pleasant memory. For example, instead of, "My knee is killing me, I can barely walk," maybe try, "My knee is giving me trouble today, but I was still able to sit in the garden and enjoy the sunshine." It's a subtle shift, but it can change the whole tone of a conversation. Actively listening to others and asking them questions about their lives is another way to shift the focus outwards. Show genuine interest in what they're doing, what they're thinking, how they're feeling. This makes the interaction a two-way street and less of a monologue of grievances. If you find yourself stuck in repetitive negative loops, whether it's about the past or current issues, try to gently redirect your thoughts. Engage in an activity that requires focus. Reading, a puzzle, a craft, listening to music, physically getting up and moving, even just for a few minutes, can also break the mental pattern. 4 deeper. Persistent negativity that might be tied to depression or anxiety. Seeking professional help is essential. A therapist or counselor can provide tools and strategies to challenge negative thought patterns and develop healthier coping mechanisms. Sometimes medication might also be necessary. There's no shame in seeking help. It's a sign of strength and a commitment to your own well-being and your relationships. Another strategy is to consciously inject more positive experiences into your life. Spend time in nature. Listen to uplifting music. Watch comedies. Connect with people who have a positive outlook. Volunteer for a cause you care about. These activities can help counterbalance the negative focus and provide new things to talk about besides your troubles. It's about cultivating a mindset that looks for the good, even amidst the bad. It's an ongoing practice, not a one-time fix, but the rewards in terms of healthier relationships and a brighter outlook are immense. Now, let's talk about something that can really impact social interactions and, again, might be difficult for others to point out a loss of social graces or a decrease in social awareness. What do I mean by this? Well, it can show up in various ways. Maybe it's interrupting others frequently without realizing it. Perhaps it's talking excessively loudly, especially on the phone, in restaurants, or in public. It could be making comments that are inappropriate or lack sensitivity to the situation or the people present. Sometimes, it's not picking up on social cues, like when someone is trying to end a conversation politely, or when a topic is making someone uncomfortable. It might also manifest as poor table manners, forgetting basic courtesies like please and thank you, or generally dominating conversations without allowing others to contribute. Again, this isn't typically intentional rudeness. Several factors common in aging can contribute. Hearing loss is a major one. If you can't hear yourself properly or can't hear others well, it's easy to talk too loudly or miss conversational cues. Cognitive changes, even mild ones, can affect impulse control, judgment, and the ability to process complex social situations. Loneliness and isolation can also play a role if you don't get much practice in social settings. Your social muscles can weaken, and you might forget some of the subtle rules of engagement. Sometimes, it's simply that the filters we used to have aren't quite as strong. The ugly consequence here is similar to the others. It can make social interactions difficult and less enjoyable for others, potentially leading them to avoid spending time with you. People might feel unheard, offended, or simply overwhelmed by the behavior. This further isolates the older person, confirming any fears they might have about being a burden or no longer fitting in. Addressing this requires a combination of self-awareness and practical adjustments, often with the help of others. If hearing loss is suspected, getting a hearing test is absolutely crucial. Hearing aids can dramatically improve the ability to participate in conversations and be aware of your surroundings, including the volume of your own voice. It's not just about hearing. It's about staying connected and socially engaged. Practice active listening, consciously focusing on what the other person is saying, nodding, making eye contact, and waiting for them to finish before speaking. If you tend to interrupt, try to pause for a few seconds after someone stops speaking before you jump in. This gives them a chance to add more or signals that you're ready to respond. Managing conversational dominance can be tricky. Try setting a goal for yourself before a social interaction, like, I'm going to ask 3 questions about the other person today, or I'm going to listen more than I speak. It can feel artificial at first, but it helps retrain the habit. If you're unsure about a comment, err on the side of caution. Ask yourself, could this potentially offend someone? Or is this relevant to the current conversation before speaking? Take a breath and think briefly about what you're going to say and how it might be received. If you find yourself making comments that land poorly, try to develop the habit of apologizing sincerely if you realize you've said something inappropriate. Something simple like, "Oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't a kind thing to say," can go a long way. If you're worried about your social skills or feeling out of practice, start with smaller social interactions, maybe one-on-one conversations with a trusted friend or family member, before diving into larger group settings. Ask a close confidant if they've noticed any habits you could work on, and be open to their feedback, remembering they're telling you out of care. If you suspect that cognitive changes might be impacting your social awareness, it's important to get evaluated by a doctor. Early diagnosis and support can make a significant difference in managing symptoms and maintaining quality of life and relationships. Relearning or reinforcing social norms can also involve observing others, perhaps even watching shows or movies and paying attention to how people interact respectfully. It's about being mindful of how we come across and making an effort to ensure our interactions are positive and comfortable for everyone involved. Let's delve into the fourth challenge, which is a common one, and that's becoming overly resistant to new things, new ideas, or even accepting help. As we age, we often develop routines and ways of doing things that feel comfortable and safe. There's a sense of mastery and control in sticking to what you know. Change can feel unsettling, overwhelming, or even threatening, especially if technology is involved, or if it means admitting you can't do things the way you used to. Accepting help can feel like a loss of independence, a sign of weakness, or a burden on others. This resistance can show up in many ways: refusing to learn how to use a smartphone or computer, insisting on driving when it's no longer safe, refusing home modifications that would prevent falls, rejecting medical advice, or even refusing simple help with groceries or chores from well-meaning family members. The ugly side effect here is that this resistance can lead to increased risk and isolation. Refusing necessary help or adaptations can lead to accidents, health crises, and a reduced quality of life. It can also create significant frustration, worry, and even resentment among family and friends who see you struggling or putting yourself in danger but are powerless to help because you won't accept it. They might feel shut out, unappreciated, or exhausted by constantly trying to offer support that is rejected. This can strain relationships to the breaking point. Overcoming this resistance is fundamentally about understanding the underlying fears and finding ways to feel secure while still embracing necessary change and support. First, acknowledge that the fear of losing independence is real and valid. It's a huge part of identity, and anything that threatens that can feel scary. Try to reframe accepting help not as losing independence, but as maintaining independence by allowing yourself to conserve energy for the things that truly matter to you. For instance, letting someone else drive you to appointments frees up your energy to enjoy the visit or the conversation during the ride. Accepting help with heavy cleaning means you have more energy for your hobbies or spending time with loved ones. It's about selective delegation, not total surrender, when it comes to new things, like technology or different ways of doing tasks. Approach it with curiosity rather than resistance. Frame it as a challenge or an opportunity to learn something new, which is great for brain health. Break down the learning process into small, manageable steps. Don't expect to master something new overnight. Be patient with yourself. Ask someone patient to teach you, or look for resources specifically designed for seniors, like classes at a local community center or online tutorials. Try to understand why the proposed change or help is being suggested. Often, it comes from a place of genuine care and concern for your safety and well-being. Have an open conversation with those offering help. Express your fears and hesitations, and listen to their perspectives. Maybe there's a compromise to be found. Could you accept help with just 1 or 2 specific tasks to start? Could you try the new technology for a limited time to see if you like it? Consider the benefits of embracing change. Learning new technology can open up new ways to connect with family and friends, access information, or enjoy entertainment. Home modifications can prevent falls and allow you to stay in your own home longer. Accepting help when you need it can actually increase your overall independence by allowing you to do more of what you truly want and need to do safely. It's about adapting to continue living your life fully, This isn't about being stubborn for the sake of it. It's often rooted in fear or a desire to maintain dignity. Addressing it gently, with open communication and a willingness to try new things or accept support in small doses, can significantly improve relationships and your quality of life. Finally, let's address the fifth challenge. One that can be particularly unsettling for both the individual and those around them developing obsessive or repetitive behaviors. This can manifest in various ways. It might be fixating on a particular topic or grievance and bringing it up repeatedly in conversations. Regardless of the context, it could be hoarding items, sometimes to an excessive degree that creates unsafe living conditions. It might be engaging in repetitive actions, like constantly checking if the door is locked, rearranging objects in a specific way, or asking the same questions over and over. Sometimes, it's a rigid adherence to routine that makes any deviation extremely stressful, while some repetition or routine is normal. When it becomes obsessive, significantly interferes with daily life, or causes distress to the person or others, it becomes a challenge. The reasons behind this can be complex. Anxiety often plays a significant role. Repetitive thoughts or actions can be a way of trying to manage overwhelming worry or gain a sense of control in a world that feels unpredictable. Cognitive changes, including early signs of dementia, can affect memory, judgment, and the ability to shift focus, leading to getting stuck on certain thoughts or behaviors. Loneliness and lack of stimulation can also contribute, as the mind might latch on to whatever is available. Even if it's repetitive worry or a fixation on objects, past experiences or trauma can also resurface as obsessive thoughts or behaviors. The ugly aspect of these behaviors is how they can impact relationships and safety. Constant repetition can be incredibly frustrating and exhausting for caregivers, family, and friends, making communication difficult and draining. Hoarding can create unsafe living environments due to clutter, poor sanitation, and fire hazards. Rigid routines can make it difficult for others to provide care or simply spend time together spontaneously. Ultimately, these behaviors can isolate the individual, leading to misunderstandings and strained relationships, as loved ones struggle to cope and respond effectively. Addressing obsessive or repetitive behaviors often requires patience, understanding, and sometimes professional intervention. If these behaviors are new or have significantly worsened, it is crucial to rule out underlying medical causes, including cognitive decline, anxiety disorders, or other mental health conditions. A thorough medical evaluation is the first and most important step. Depending on the cause, treatment might involve medication to manage anxiety or cognitive symptoms, or therapy, such as cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT), which can help individuals identify and challenge obsessive thoughts and develop strategies to reduce compulsive behaviors. For loved ones trying to support someone with these challenges, patience is key, though incredibly difficult. Instead of arguing or trying to reason someone out of a fixation or repetitive question, try gentle redirection. Acknowledge their concern briefly, and then try to shift the conversation to a different topic or engage them in a different activity. For instance, if they keep asking if the door is locked, you could say, "Yes, the door is locked and secure," and then immediately say, "Hey, have you seen that interesting bird outside, Nani? Or would you like to look at that photo album?" If they are fixated on a grievance, listen for a moment. Validate their feelings. "That sounds frustrating." Yaman, and then try to steer the conversation towards a solution or a different, more positive topic. Creating a calm and predictable environment can sometimes help reduce anxiety that fuels these behaviors. Establishing gentle routines can provide a sense of security, but it's important that these routines don't become so rigid they cause distress if they are disrupted. For hoarding, professional organizers who specialize in chronic disorganization can be helpful, often working in conjunction with therapists. It's about creating a safe and manageable living space, focusing on harm reduction and gradual progress rather than immediate perfection. Engaging the person in meaningful activities that capture their attention and provide a sense of purpose can also help redirect their focus away from repetitive thoughts or behaviors. Hobbies, social interaction, light exercise, or simple tasks they can accomplish can be beneficial. It's important for caregivers and family members to also seek support for themselves, as these behaviors can be incredibly challenging and emotionally taxing. Support groups, therapy, and respite care can provide much-needed relief and coping strategies. Ultimately, managing obsessive or repetitive behaviors is about finding ways to reduce the underlying anxiety or cognitive factors contributing to them, and creating a supportive environment that promotes calm and engagement. It's a journey that often requires collaboration between the individual, their family, and healthcare professionals. So, we've looked at 5 areas that can sometimes become challenging as we age: maintaining personal presentation, managing negativity and complaining, navigating social interactions with awareness, overcoming resistance to change and help, and dealing with obsessive or repetitive behaviors. These aren't minor things. They are areas that can genuinely impact our connections with others and our overall quality of life. They are the ugly things, not because the person is ugly, but because the effects on relationships and well-being can feel that way. But here is the reassuring truth, and perhaps the surprising insight I mentioned earlier: every single one of these challenges can be addressed. Every single one has practical steps that can be taken. You are not destined to fall into these patterns. And if you recognize some of them in yourself, or perhaps in a loved one, please know that it's not a life sentence. Recognizing these habits isn't about dwelling on imperfections. It's about empowering yourself with awareness. It's about understanding that these are common human experiences, sometimes amplified by the aging process, but they are not insurmountable. Remember, the goal isn't perfection. It's about progress, about maintaining dignity, staying connected, and continuing to live a life filled with purpose and joy. Small, consistent changes really do make a big difference. Maybe it's just making sure you put on fresh clothes every morning. Maybe it's consciously biting your tongue before complaining and finding one thing to be grateful for instead. Maybe it's getting your hearing checked, or practicing active listening in conversations. Maybe it's agreeing to accept help with just one chore, or trying out one new piece of technology. Maybe it's talking to your doctor about anxiety or memory concerns. These aren't easy conversations to have, either with yourself or with loved ones. But by bringing them into the light, we can approach them with empathy, understanding, and practical solutions. This is about self-compassion, patience, and the willingness to adapt and grow, even as we age. It's about recognizing that maintaining strong, positive relationships is one of the greatest joys of life, and sometimes that requires being mindful of our own habits and making adjustments. What challenges have you faced as you've gotten older? Or what have you noticed in others that you wish people talked about more openly? What strategies have worked for you or someone you know in navigating these sensitive areas? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Sharing our experiences can help others feel less alone and provide valuable insights. If you found this video helpful or insightful, please give it a thumbs up. That tells me I'm creating content that matters to you. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future videos designed to help you navigate the journey of aging with grace, strength, and joy. Aging is a gift, a time for reflection, connection, and continuing to learn and grow. Let's embrace it fully, addressing challenges head-on with courage and kindness. Live your best life, vibrant and connected, at every single age.